That's
Yep.
cool. That's cool.
And a lot of YouTube videos. All right, here we go. This is 71.
Yes.
71.
It's a good choice of music.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, it's sounding like Texas.
Yeah. Texas.
Okay, I'm over it.
It was a good
Outlaw
one.
for Hire. That's their intro for this one.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show, episode 71.
Man, we got a special treat for you
We
tonight.
do have a really special treat. This is the beginning of a new segment that we're debuting.
What's it called?
Getting to know your elected officials. And with us tonight on this very special inaugural episode, we have Dr. Lynn Stucky, our
Inaugural. It don't get no better.
our state local state representative. So welcome to the show, Dr.
Thank
Stucky.
you.
Good to
Thank you
have
very much. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you guys.
It is good to have you here. So
What a
I mean,
what a studio.
we were sitting around, we were just thinking like, we know literally jack shit
Yeah.
about what it takes to represent us.
yeah, it's been a while since
Yeah.
we've been through government, social, and economic, school courses. So it's like, what do the people that we elect? What exactly do they do? What's their role? So that's the gist of the show, is not to be too terribly political. I think it'll happen. That's probably.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get into that. But the gist is just to have information on what you do and
Yes, sir.
That's right.
what you do for your local community, what you do for the state, all the above. What's your day-to-day like?
And this is great.
So
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up on a farm ranch in Kansas, and went to a small school, a little smaller than Decatur. We actually won state championship, but Decatur almost did
Almost.
Yeah,
I
you're
know.
right.
Oh,
Close.
man, it was so
it.
close.
I went and I got to do the coin flip at that game.
Yeah,
It
my
a
daughter
great-
was there. She told me.
Great game. I wish they'd have won, though. But graduated from there. But when I was 11 years old, my dad developed a brain tumor and passed away. My mom,
jeez.
there were 6 of us kids. My oldest was in college, my oldest brother, and the next oldest was a senior in high school. And I was 11. I had 3 little sisters. And my mom looked at all of us, said, "Hey, you're going to know Jesus, and B, you're all going to get a college degree." And so she made sure that happened before she passed away. But my oldest brother got drafted in the Vietnam War. My next oldest brother was 18, and she wanted us all to go to college, but we had no money. She was going to try to help us what she could. So when he got a scholarship to play college football, he went off and left. And so he'd come home when he could. But it was me and my mom and my 3 little sisters. We had cattle, sheep, hogs, and about 1,000 acres of cropland that we worked. And
I can relate to that.
yep, yeah, I know. It's a beautiful ranch you just drove up on.
Well,
here.
thank you. Yeah, we got to get you out in the daytime or take you for a pig hunt or something like that.
Hey, I'm in. I'm in right now. How about after this is over?
I think we can pull that off. Yeah.
What are you doing
absolutely.
afterwards?
I'm going to have to get something besides shorts.
I need some pants.
Yeah.
You probably got about 20 thermals out here.
No, no, sir. They all-
We lost all
We
those
lost
in
all our guns in the
voting
lakes,
act,
too. Yeah.
Just don't look over to your left.
I hear Kevin Burns is going to be on this. We can get some from him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's always up for a
He
donation.
knows a guy.
He's got it. Yeah.
Anyway, when I was in high school and I was farming and ranching, and every time we had a snowstorm in Kansas, central Kansas, I didn't get to go home and look out the window and watch it snow. I got to go home and feed animals, make sure they didn't die.
Yes.
And I loved growing up on a farm ranch, but I literally hated blizzards. And
When
snowstorms.
everybody's getting a snow day and it's fun,
Yeah.
farmers aren't having fun.
I'm going out and making sure they're eating, or if they die, we're done.
Yeah.
So I would do that. So when I went to my second degree, my first degree was ag degree at Kansas State. My second degree was veterinarian. So when I was getting my second degree, I thought, I'm not going to go back to where I grew up.
Uh-huh.
I knew all the other farmers and ranchers around there, and there was a great place to live. But over the years, ranching and farming has gone from you could survive on 600 acres to now you got to have 3,000 to 6,000 acres.
Yeah. You have to have
Wow.
thousands of head of cattle to really be prosperous. Otherwise, you're just.
Why is that?
It's just, I don't know, the way the market is and the way the big 3 players that are there. It's just kind of unfortunate.
The margins are very, very, very tight. And
Yeah.
fortunately, we've got an up market right now on beef, but it won't last forever.
No, they never do.
There'll be a couple good years, and there'll be 5 that'll be marginal, and then there'll be a couple good years.
Good years. Yeah.
and then you throw the droughts in there, and you have the cost and the fertilizer costs and everything else, and you might have made more money on the sale, but your fertilizer and
the fertilizer rates in the last 2 years tripled.
Yeah,
absolutely tripled.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no beating around the bush. They tripled.
Was that a Ukraine thing?
Multi.
Partly.
Yeah. It's also an energy thing, right?
Yeah, just all of the above. Supply chains. I mean, everything really.
But it's amazing. The oil price goes up, and then fertilizer goes up, and tires go up, and then the oil price goes down, and none of those things go down. But anyway, I just thought, when I graduate, and all of my siblings got college degrees, but my two older brothers already had graduated from college. And the one in the middle that was playing football, he wanted to come back and farm and ranch, and there wasn't room for both of us. So I got in my car spring break of my senior year of vet school and drove to Texas. And I said, I want to go somewhere that is close to the Metroplex where you can go do anything you want, but still rural and a whole lot warmer in the winter than it was in Kansas. I don't mind the heat, but I hated the winter. I stopped in Denton. I went on down to Austin, to San Antonio, over to College Station, where I knew I'd had to take my state boards back through the rose capital of the state, Tyler. Went back up, finished my last 6 weeks of vet school, turned around and drove to Denton. And went in with another guy, started veterinary medicine. And so 1983, in April and May of 1983, I came to North Texas.
Okay.
So, but... how did I grow up, and how did I become an elected official?
Yeah. Well, at what point do you think, I've had enough of being beaten down as a farmer. I'd like to take an even bigger beating.
Yeah,
and
or
become
a veterinarian.
and a veterinarian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our veterinarian right up the road, Andy Waller, he almost got killed about a year ago. He got pinned between a mad bull and a pipe fence. And
it can happen. I've had my tibia fibula fractured and my ACL torn with a horse. I've had my collarbone fractured. I've had multiple broken ribs. All of those are usually large animal. And then you get the bites like the cat bite and scratch I got right here the other day from a cat. But when did I decide I want to do this? Well, I've been blessed. If I wanted to be rich, I'd probably been a regular medical doctor like Brad.
Yeah.
Oh, don't let it.
Because they make a lot of money.
Or an orthodontist or an orthopedist, but not necessarily a veterinarian. But you can make a decent living if you want to work hard. But we basically lived here in North Texas, worked here, and raised our family here. And today actually is our grandson's first birthday, and we took him to the Dallas Arboretum today, and we're blessed, and we got another one on the way.
This is your first grandchild,
First
right?
grandchild.
Well, congratulations on becoming a grandfather.
Yeah, we didn't think it was ever going to happen because Evan and Courtney had been married 8.5 years, and we're like, Lori said the other day, or before he was born, we're going to have a walker before these kids show up with other kids. But we've been blessed, and now we got another one on the way. So,
nice.
And another daughter that just got married. But I would love veterinary medicine. Felt really good about the fact that when I got here, all I had was a folder about that thick of student loans. My wife had a 7-year-old Pinto with no air conditioning and $2,000 in the bank. And she says I married her for her money, and that's about right.
I mean, she drove a Pinto.
Yep, that was a bank repo Pinto. It actually had a knife under the driver's seat, and we got it, and about an inch of nicotine on the inside.
Oh yeah,
those are great cars, though.
They don't give up. Now they're collector's items.
Yeah,
I like the ones with the license tag that said "kaboom," because they had the tank right by you. You hit them, they'd blow up. But anyway, we were blessed to be here. She got her degree. She actually had cancer and had to drop out of school, had Hodgkin's lymphoma, had a tumor the size of a grapefruit wrapped around her aorta, and another one size of a tennis ball on her pleural surface. So she had those taken off, went through a bunch of radiation, went back to Kansas State and finished her degree, and then came down, and we got married shortly thereafter. And she went to work for Denton Independent School District as a science teacher and a coach, and I was a veterinarian. But a great career. Brad, how long have you been practicing human
about
medicine?
15 years.
About 15 years?
Yeah.
Okay, I've been doing
On humans.
over 40 on four-legged humans. But
I would trust you on me.
I trust you on me. I hear you got a great reputation.
You're probably humans are probably easier subjects than animals because you can't tell an animal
Yeah.
everything's going to be okay.
I mean, outside of like pediatrics and special needs medicine,
yeah,
people can generally tell you what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Or how
times
they're
they're actually
feeling.
correct.
yeah.
But on a lot of occasions they lie to you too. So
Yeah, that's true.
My patients don't lie to me, so I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
that. But anyway, we had a great career. When I sold the veterinary practice, I still owned the building, but sold the practice. We had 9,000 active clients. There were 4 veterinarians, 3 others, and myself, and I owned it. And we sold it to a corporation. And the reason I did is I loved what I did, but as we grew and Lori and I became, the sole owners, it was always on us. We had 40 to 60 animals in the clinic on a holiday.
Yeah.
And if your staff didn't show up, guess who was walking the dogs and doing the treatment? We were all the time. And we had great staff, but humans are humans, and they seem to get sick a lot more often when it's a holiday or a weekend.
Yeah, funny
Yeah.
how that works.
But
Long weekend.
I just didn't want to burn out and be one of those grumpy old veterinarians. And our state rep had decided to retire. And when I looked at representative, the word, it means hopefully that you can communicate with your constituents, that you know the people. I'm thinking, I've been school board president 5 years, on the executive board for 15. Chamber Commerce Executive Board for many years, president of Denton County Veterinary Medical Association, started Denton Young Life. Now I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Kanakuk Institute in Branson, Missouri, which is a master's program biblically based program for college graduates who want to get a master's in MBA or theology or whatever.
Okay.
And on and on and on. So we've done a lot of these things and given back, been going to Denton Bible and a member since 1987. And on and on and on. So I basically saying, I gave back to the community.
Yeah.
And I can represent because those people can approach me. I, as a veterinarian, just like you as a medical doctor, you don't just meet with Republicans or Democrats.
You're extending hands across the aisles.
Your personal life is different. You love animals and you want them taken care of, and I take care of that for you. So and rich and poor, it didn't matter. There were times that it was the guy who brought the dogs in's son's girlfriend doing the interpretation because he couldn't speak any English, but he loved his animal. So, I developed bonds with people, and I thought, what, representative, I think I can be a representative because I have given back and given back and given back, and thus those people know me.
And you're approachable. You're not afraid to talk to the public.
I'm not afraid to talk to the public, but I will do it in a manner that you show respect.
Sure.
And if there's an opinion that they have, I'm willing to listen. But if it's something I don't agree with, I'm willing to also say we're going to have to agree to disagree.
Sure. Yeah.
That's part of what you have to do to be a representative. And if you follow social media, you see we get plastered all the time. We talked about it earlier. That's just part of it. I knew that would happen when I signed up.
The era of social media has got to be tenfold brutal.
Oh, it's
of how
so strange.
being an elected official used to be, because it's getting slung at you from every direction.
Well, and it's not just that. It's like the era of social media also paired with the era of non-canned media.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, okay, where do you guys get your news from?
Yeah.
Well, you don't get it from the TV.
I got it from TikTok.
Yeah, right? So this is a strange era.
And it is scary because, there's a lot of really good, hardworking people, no different than I was or Lori and I were and you guys were, where we don't have time to study and find out what's really truth and what's a lie.
Yeah, that's not a burden one should really have to bear.
What's twisted and what's not twisted.
Yeah.
And let's take, the billboard in Decatur where it says Lynn Stucky and 60 Democrats impeached Ken Paxton. I mean, if you know anything about being a representative, you know that's not even possible because that's not true.
Where is that billboard? I guess as part of being a millennial, I don't pay attention to billboards.
I think it was on 287. I don't know if it's still there. It was there for months.
Wow, that's crazy.
The other day we were block walking in Decatur, and I was on one side of the street and Lori was on the other, and Lori walks up and says, "Hey, I'm Lori Stucky. Lynn Stucky's up. Can I talk to you about my husband?" He goes, "No, I don't need to know anything. What I saw on the billboard's all I need to know."
Jeez.
Seriously.
Slammed the door in her face. But that's what's hard, is that if they really knew the truth and they knew when they start voting that they're going to be voting the exact opposite of what they really intended to do, it would be different. But people are busy, and where do you get your information from?
I mean, that's valid. Luckily, we know a lot of people, so we talk to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But that's maybe our only saving grace.
You have to take everything with a grain of salt these days because you don't really know what is terribly accurate and inaccurate.
Even from the time I first ran in 2016 till now, even the readership. Now, the Messenger is a great news media, and people still, I'm glad to see that in Decatur. They look at that. But the Denton Record Chronicle, it was probably 55% of the people read that thing one way or the other when I started. Now it's down to like 9%.
This is becoming the era of, this is where you get like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson. I don't know.
Honestly, I have to say that's where I get my news is podcasts.
Long format, open forum to where you have your guest on, your visitor. They can explain what they did, why they did it, why they're thinking, and then that's it. There's nothing else to parse through. You have the information from the horse's mouth, and they don't have a 5-minute news segment to where they're like, "Okay, Bill, you got to answer this question, and you have 30 seconds to answer it. Hey, thanks for being here, and goodbye."
Yep.
So that is on the way out, and the podcast open forum, long forum is what you would go to really get good, accurate info.
So I was just making and I know we just redistricted when I got Wise County, not this year, but a couple of years ago. But I had one guy one time tell me, he goes, I don't like her current state rep. That was before I was elected because she didn't give me enough time. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Richard, do you know that at the time we had 225,000 in my district? Let's divide that by 365 days. That's 616.4 people she would need to talk to every day if she wanted to talk to you once."
Not possible.
And it's so that'd be 25 per hour. So you got about a minute.
Totally doable. I mean,
if you didn't sleep at all.
Yeah.
But again, the point is, people need to get their information. If they want to call our office and ask, myself or my team is going to answer every one of them. The hard part is when you have, just like you're talking about on social media, somebody plastering this stuff out there that's non-truthful. Many times, if they're smart, and a lot of them have done this a long time, they make it so complicated that you can't answer it in 17 seconds.
No,
because typically we have 17 seconds before people's eyes glaze over, and they don't want to hear anything else because they want an answer in 17 seconds.
Yeah,
some of them are 17-minute answers.
Yeah. So,
and you can't condense a 17-minute answer into 17 seconds and be relatable or come across as accurate. I don't know how that's humanly possible.
Yeah.
So the twisted truth or the twisted lies, sometimes you just have to say it's just flat out a lie, and it is. Because you explain how they got to their lie takes a long time.
Right.
But again, why would I want to do this? Well, I was blessed. We were blessed to come to North Texas and to make basically raise our kids, make a living, and live in the greatest place in America.
Okay, great. So you have, at this point, you've moved to Texas, Denton specifically?
I started in Denton in an apartment, and in 1987, we bought 10 acres between Denton and Sanger in the unincorporated rural area.
Okay.
And we built a home out there, and we used to be out in the country.
I was fixing to say, that place is blowing up now.
Not the country.
Now we're pretty well surrounded by homes everywhere. But we still have at least a 10-acre. Well, we have at least a little piece of property next to us, so we have about almost a 20-acre buffer from anybody else.
Okay. So at what year did you officially decide I want to run for state representative?
2016.
Okay. That was it.
And My wife and I were actually at church, and one day, and I said, you know what? On the way home, I said, I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring to run for state representative. And she's like, what?
Other than being a man of the public and giving back and having that nature, was there anything else that compelled you to say, I'm a glutton for punishment. Let's do this?
You know, the fact that I wanted our kids and grandkids to have the same opportunities I had to come to this area, and if they want to work hard, make a great living, have a great place to live and a great place to raise their kids.
Yeah.
I didn't want Texas to change.
You want to enable leadership that enables people to succeed,
Right.
and to have that opportunity.
I wanted conservative, biblically based legislation that allowed us to work hard and not be a socialist where everybody gets, you know, we're gonna split it all up, and every 24 hours we're gonna split it up again.
Yeah.
You know, and you all get the same no matter what you do.
Then nobody has a work ethic. Nobody wants to
Exactly.
work.
If you want to work hard, you can make a decent living, but you got to do it in an honest and fair way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that what you want, Brad?
That's exactly what I want. How do you like encapsulate your people, you know, and what their beliefs are or what they feel like you should represent?
You know, it's an opportunity that during we have the session, and then you have between the sessions. Now, how did our forefathers decide to do the legislature in the state of Texas? Well, I think it was 1846. The legislature was formed in 1847. It was the first legislation. But it was to be a citizen representation. Basically, I work in the community.
Is that you?
That's not me.
Yeah.
That's a Siri.
That's supposed smart watch.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're smart. But, you know, typically it was citizenship representation where I work amongst the people. I go down, and the way it was designed is that on the odd years, on the second Tuesday of January, you would meet in the Texas Capitol, and you would go for 140 days straight, and then you would be done for 2 years. And you would come back and you do it again in the next odd year. Now, this year was not one of those. We just finished our fourth special session on Tuesday.
This is a big deal, isn't it?
And we're still probably going to be brought back. Hopefully, Abbott, you know, during the regular session, we get to pick the legislation we want. And that's where when you guys or the people of Wise County and Denton County have things that they want and need, they come to me. We talk about them, and then we develop laws. Let's take Athena Strand, the terrible thing that happened to her.
Yep.
Right here close to Paradise.
Right. This was almost maybe right at a year ago now, right?
It was just over a year ago. It was last November.
Yeah.
Yep.
Her mother was extremely distraught the fact that the Amber Alert could not be used because of certain regulations that were required.
Because it wasn't 24 hours is the stipulation.
Right.
Your kid has to be missing.
Which blows my
I
mind.
remember hearing about this.
Yes.
Because it's like the first 24 hours is the most important.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so she came down, and, you know, she's an amazing woman to be able to sit there. She brought a lawyer from Fort Worth with her, and we spent hundreds of hours talking with her. And just to think that this is somebody who had just lost her baby within a year in a very cruel way, where the guy was actually delivering this girl's Christmas gift and abducts her and kills her.
Yeah, it's nightmarish. I mean,
It's just
pure evil.
Pure evil.
The irony
And I guess
what grabs you.
Yeah, and he's up
Good
for
Lord.
his trial still coming up. But we spent, you know, hours upon hours working with her, and we developed Athena's Law. And this new law allows the whether it's in the county, the sheriff, or if it's in the city, the chief of police, to make the decision to call the Athena Alert. And the Athena Alert goes out within 100 miles. It can go out immediately if they say yes. Depending on the circumstances I just heard, I think we should send it out. It could happen within 5 minutes after the abduction, and it would be within 100 miles from the abduction.
Other than I guess an alert via networks, television, radio, whatever, does that enable any other resources too? I mean, more law enforcement.
Everybody is notified, just like they would be on an Amber Alert within 100 miles.
Okay,
that this is going on. But that was an example of representation, where you have somebody within our District 64 that was in need, that needed help. You know, a couple, but again, during the regular session, we get to pick what we're going to talk about. During the special session, the only one who gets to decide what we're going to deal with is the governor.
Okay.
And he can be very specific about what he wants to talk about. Like this last time was only educational related. So we can't file anything that we want other than if it has to do with specific educational
Interesting.
things that he'd asked. Now, I've been on appropriations 6 years, and we've appropriated $4.5 billion that we still have not given to public schools, and I'm hoping that we get to do that. But he's holding that with some, what he calls school choice. And so I'm going to play the cards that I was dealt. That is, let's get the public education money for good public schools that need it, like Decatur and most of the schools in my district. And if we have to give up a little bit, as long as we are at the table and not on the menu, we can control where that money goes, especially if we're going to give most of it to socioeconomic disadvantaged kids and disabled kids. And that's the way that was planned, but it never went through. And so he'll probably call us back in January. But going back to, citizenship representation, the representative is supposed to be down there just 140 days every 2 years, go home and work amongst everybody again. And if I did something crazy that affects Brad, well, now he's got to have 14 employees to take care of the scheduled drugs that he deals with because they got so much reporting. He's going to come talk to me.
When you say 140 days, let me interrupt you. Sorry. When you say 140 days, does that mean you are there in Austin consecutively 142 days, or 140 days back to back?
There are rules that we have to abide by.
Okay.
And of course, on the House side, there's 150. There's 100.
I'm glad we got Siri as a fan.
I know, like she's
She's defining things.
We're up to 23 now.
We are. We
Yeah.
got Siri.
It's probably China.
I'm sorry. What was your question again?
Are you there consecutively 140 days back to back?
No, I mean there are rules. Like the first 60 days, you can't pass a bill, out of the House, et cetera. So the beginning from January 12th of this last year till about March 12th, you're spending more time working on that legislation, building relationships. There's 150 in the House until we had to get rid of Brian Slayton for some really bad things he did. Now there's only 149. There's 31 in the Senate, and then there's a governor. When our forefathers designed this to make it difficult to pass legislation.
Yeah, because you'd have a government run amok.
Yes, and we'd have way too many rules and too much going on, and very easy to kill stuff. I can kill somebody's legislation all day long in so many different ways, from getting up and talking at the mic to putting an amendment on that looks good but poisons the bill.
And that regarded as filibustering?
There's lots of, that's one of the ways. There's lots of things you can do to kill bills.
Okay.
So if you want to be effective legislator, and I've been blessed in the 4 sessions I've been there, 3 of the 4 I've had the highest passage rate of anybody in the House. But that doesn't mean I sit there and kiss up to the Democrats, but it means I respect everybody's opinion.
It is an important figure, having the passage rate, because that means, like you said, it's not that you're there kissing up, but you're actually negotiating, you're getting along.
Right.
And this is what we commonly refer to as making sausage, because there are so many ways to make sausage.
Sure.
And what is our bottom line if we want Texas to continue to be red and to stay conservative? It's moving the ball in the right direction. Okay, that doesn't mean you get everything you want. In fact, my recommendation for anybody who wants to be a representative, a senator, or the governor is you spend a lot of time on different boards first, because you find out you don't always get your way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you pass something out, you come back together, and you continue to work on that. And just like in Austin, if we're moving the ball in the right way, and on pro-life issues, we almost eliminated abortion in the state of Texas by moving the ball incrementally. There's still some things we could do, but there's some things that we discuss because we want everybody to be involved in that. On Second Amendment rights, we have the strongest Second Amendment rights in the nation.
No doubt.
Are there some more things we could do? Yeah. I mean, there are some things we could do, but we have done a lot. In fact, the last session is the 88th legislative session. The one before, obviously, the 87th. Historically, based on federal guidelines and federal standards, we have had the two most conservative sessions ever, since 1847.
That's interesting because we live in the perception that Texas is just getting bluer and bluer, right? And
Purple.
Yeah.
It depends on which news agency you listen to.
But I think there's some call and response to kind of what's happening nationally that's pushing the people of Texas to be more conservative.
But unfortunately, there is some truth to the fact that we're getting bluer because, we have around 1,450 people a day moving to the state of Texas.
I was going to say, let's be safe and let me say it. Yeah. Too many Californians are moving in.
Well, and here's my take. Here's my take on that.
Wow.
I was out seeing a Californian the other day with a 7,200 square foot house on 20 acres. And he built this beautiful horse barn, and I went and saw his dogs and his horses and was talking about it. And he was just tickled pink to be here because he hated California.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened to it. And he's very red. And he took his 1,500 square foot house in San Diego, and he built this place and had money left over.
Right.
So those that want to come here because they want to change their life, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Where we run into issues is when you have Tesla move here, or you have Hewlett-Packard or Toyota or any of those, and they say you can keep your job that you had in California if you go to Texas. And now they've been transferred. And those people many times bring their California politics with them.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary, is that we have that happening. And in every area that is growing rapidly, we see the movement to more blue. Fortunately or unfortunately, Wise County is growing, and we hope it's controlled growth and good people.
Right.
We hope.
But just like Denton, when I got there in 1983, there was only about 140,000 people. Now there's over 1 million. They call it Little Austin for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because you have more and more of those that are socialists.
I'm glad you broached that though, Stucky, because we've talked about the Californians coming in on our own personal time, and it's like most of them are good, blue collar, like running just your everyday guy that wants to vote, wants to take care of his family, be enabled for success. But then inevitably, once all those people there that have, brought California into a state of prosperity, once they're gone, and then all the people that have depended on that, they're going to follow the money, which is what you just stated with Tesla, with these big corporations moving in. Those people have already followed them to stay afloat with a job, but they're not going to vote in the way that we would hope they would vote.
No, they're not. And, some of them are union members and blah, blah, blah. And
which is ironic because they're not working for a government. They're working for a private entity.
Exactly.
But they would vote night and day, all day, every day that, we want more government control over this. So I don't know. It's perplexing.
And
it is perplexing.
And it is scary. And we don't want to, if Texas goes blue, we'll never have another Republican president ever.
Think so?
It's a bold claim.
I'm telling you, we won't.
You don't
have
subscribe to
the
pendulum thing?
I do subscribe to the pendulum to some degree, but once we hit blue, and the only thing that would help that would be if we got another Joe Biden that killed our economy, and then
can we handle that?
The pendulum would swing a lot harder back the other way after that happened. But I really don't think. I think we're one of the last strongholds.
Yeah.
Period.
You don't think the last 3 years have been extreme enough to cause that pendulum swing?
You mean in the presidential election coming up? I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're one of the rare states that has the Senate controls by the Republican, the House is controlled by a Republican, and we have a Republican governor.
Yeah,
we're one of the rarities.
Okay.
But again, on passing bills, you got to have at least 75, 76 people that are going to vote for your bill, and not only that, you've got to get it through the Senate, and you got to get it to the governor's desk. And he either has to let it lay there and go into law or sign it, or he vetoes it. Now, I had 4 bills that specifically came from people in Wise County that wanted something done.
Okay.
Another
Athena's Law. Is
five
one.
of them
Okay.
actually. Athena's Law, Lost Battalion Highway. The Lost Battalion Highway. One of the biggest groups in the Lost Battalion came from Wise and Parker County.
Yeah.
And Jack County, and we're going to have that designated, and we're going to have a big grand opening hopefully in January.
That's nice
on Highway
because
380 and it's going to have big signs and everything.
There was a lot of data and history just lost that literally went up in flames.
Yes, it did.
With the Wise Historical Museum going.
If you guys had come to the committee hearing on that, it was very emotional. Interesting that right before we had that committee hearing, I called Kevin Burns and said, "Hey, could you give me some more information on that?" And he said, "I'm going to go over to the Historic Museum and Heritage Museum and get that." And he did, and that thing unfortunately burned like within 2 weeks of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Kevin, called me and he said, "Man, I mean, we were all devastated." And he's like, "My dad's dog tags were in there." And I said, "Well, maybe we can sift through the ashes and find it." He goes, "Stucky, they were made out of wood."
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in there. My mom, a week before it burnt down, took one of her old family books that's been in the family for like generations. A week before it burnt down. I mean,
She took it out of it?
No, she took it up there and donated it to
Oh,
him.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
but that was
I
crazy.
just know a lot of people were devastated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Another one was the Stagecoach Capital of Bridgeport. They say they're Stagecoach Capital. We made it official,
Okay.
and they maintained that for 10 years. We helped Wise County Hospital make its next phase possible. They just had a sale, and what hopefully comes with being owned by Texas Medical City
Medical City.
is the more diagnostics and things they can do here.
Yeah.
And another one that came straight from our county judge was the hotel occupancy tax bill that,
Hotel occupancy tax. Okay.
hotel occupancy tax bill. We don't want to raise our taxes on anybody here in Wise County, right?
Right.
But
Oh, no doubt.
We have to spend money to maintain the courthouse. If we want our parks to be taken care of, that costs money. If we want to upgrade our fairgrounds, that takes money. Well, we passed a bill that will allow $2 for every 100 if the county commissioners and the judge want to do it. That somebody's staying here in the hotel, $2 for every 100, they're going to pay a $2 fee up to $2. They can say 2 cents or $2. And that will go toward that fund, and it will maintain the courthouse. It will help improve our fairgrounds, and it will help our parks. And that's a way of doing it without it taxing us.
Is
right?
there not a state occupancy tax for hotels, or is that?
Yeah, I think there is too, but this is a different one. And most places that are growing, they've got a local one. They have the option of that local one.
Okay.
And I'm sure that the judge and the commissioners will use discrepancy on how they use it. But you know what? We don't want to ever have to spend whatever it is, $17 million on the courthouse to get it back to where it is. We want to keep maintaining it more frequently.
Sure.
There's been a lot of things they want to do with the fairgrounds that we can now do. And
it's no longer operated by the sheriff's posse. It's now Wise County Fairgrounds, right?
Correct.
yes,
Okay.
and the parks too. So all of that. But that's 5 different bills that came specifically from residents here that said we need this. And
And you got it done.
we were I'm not bragging.
You haven't
I'm just
boasted.
saying-
You haven't boasted about it. I don't see you on social media going, "Hey, we got this bill done, and this is why you should reelect me." I mean, you're pretty damn humble.
No.
You're a lot more humble than I could be as an elected official.
Those are some of the local things.
That's the truth.
And not the big things like the $18 billion, the biggest tax refund that has ever happened. No matter who tells you differently, it is the biggest tax refund ever in history. I hope when you got your tax bill on your house that you saw a reduction of some kind.
So that's how the refund is applied through property tax.
Well, you guys paid it in, and I paid it in, and you know what? We want we have spending caps. We had a $33 billion surplus. We couldn't spend all of it because we have spending caps that we have. The most we could spend was a little over $18 billion. We've given $18 billion back, and we did something else. What is going to be the number one concern in Wise County in the next few years? Water.
Ooh, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Water is going to be a huge issue. If Brad's going to have more clients and you're going to have more people eating your beef, and you're working for the city, right?
I do, yes, sir.
And we're going to have growth in the city. We're going to probably have more people, but
it's already here. Yeah.
we know it is. And when they said the census and said there was 68,000 people in Wise County, I don't believe it. I think there were more than that.
Yep.
And oh, by the way, in order to keep the hospital to continue to get federal funding, they had to stay under the rural county bill. Rural county. I upped the population so that Wise County would still stay within that, and they would still get the federal funding, which is not easy to do.
No, no small deal whenever it comes to financing that hospital.
Yes. And we hope that all is good. Corporations are corporations. We'll see.
Sure.
But
Sure.
Medical Cities has a good reputation.
Back to the $18 billion refund. So that's not coming as in a check form, right? How's that being applied?
What our objective is to get we only have a two-legged stool in the state of Texas, unlike most states have a three-legged. A three-legged is consumption tax, property tax, and a state income tax.
Mm-hmm.
2 sessions ago, we made dadgum sure you'll never have a state income tax. Another reason you have the flood of people coming to the state of Texas, why we have over 30 million here now. So we only have a two-legged stool. So we have to be careful on how we use that. The consumption tax, as we grow, hopefully it continues to go up, and it did. That's why we had so much surplus. But so has the value of property and the number of homes. And we have property tax and consumption tax. Now, where did that come from? When I first got on the school board in 1997, only about 35% of the school maintenance and operation was being paid for by us property tax owner. When I got into the legislature, over 50% was coming from the property tax owner, is reaching close to 60. Mm-hmm. Our objective is to knock that maintenance and operation all the way back down and get rid of it completely and not be on the property tax, the backs of the property tax payers, but the state to be paying that.
Okay.
So where is this money coming from? Well, in this surplus, we're taking $18.7 or $18.3 billion and paying down, compressing the amount you're paying in maintenance and operation of your schools.
Okay.
And our objective, if we can keep the Texas miracle continuing, and the Texas miracle is all these jobs and growth, we'll continue to reduce the amount of maintenance and operation that we're paying in property tax and continue to lower what your property tax bills are and make it better for people to live here.
Okay. That is probably the hardest pill to swallow for most Texans is the damn property tax.
Yes.
And I personally would be an advocate for foregoing property tax and having a state income tax, because at least you're being taxed on what you make, not what somebody is saying your estate's valued at. And, I mean, who knows what if you have a bad year and you haven't you've been out of work for 8 months or 9 months and you can't make your mortgage, therefore you can't make your there's a lot of variables for sure, but yeah, has that ever been broached?
Well, no, we're not going to have a state income tax.
Okay.
It's gone. But the bottom line is, there's been discussion about increasing the consumption tax.
Okay.
We can't increase the consumption tax above most of the other big states, or nobody's going to buy anything in the state of Texas.
Sure.
So we could go up maybe 1%, but that would be a constitutional proposition or amendment that the people would have to actually vote on.
Yeah. No
different than those 14 that you had November the 7th. Including the water fund, the COLA for teachers. When I got in the legislature, the teacher retirement system was on the verge of bankruptcy. There was no way that we could give them a cost of living adjustment. There was no way we could give them anything. Well, slowly we worked it to where, okay, we can't give a cost of living adjustment until we get it actuarially sound, but we can give them a 13th check. So we did that the last 3 sessions.
That's helpful.
And this time, we got it actuarially sound, and we gave them a cost of living adjustment, which they deserve.
Absolutely.
They haven't had it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But those constitutional amendments, that would be something that would have to be voted on. But let's go back on that. Do you guys know how many Republicans we have in the House?
Not a clue. I know they're the majority, surely.
I would take a guess, like, I don't know, 104.
No.
My guess is not enough.
Yeah, you're a good politician. I would love to have 104.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Even though our forefathers wouldn't necessarily like this, if we had 104, we could say, talk to the hand to the other side
pass
of
whatever
that,
you want.
and pass whatever you want. There
Yeah.
are a lot of bills, like these constitutional propositions, that require at least 100 votes.
Okay.
Okay.
If you've noticed a change in your bathroom habits and your number 2 isn't what it used to be, then let us invite you to try Autron Till. It's developed by Dr. Ken Brown, a board-certified gastroenterologist, to help people that suffer from IBS, bloating, and diarrhea. It's made from all-natural, non-GMO polyphenols that will put your gut microbiome back in check. Trust us, we all use it, we all benefit from it, and yes, you will notice a difference. Try the 630 trial. That's 6 pills a day for 30 days, and if it's not working for you, you can get your money back. Click on the show notes for the details or go to autrontil.com and use keyword Whiskey Bros at checkout.
So we only have 83 Republicans. So you've got
So what does
to
that work out? That's a little better than half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had more, but we're losing some. One of them we had to get rid of because of his actions with getting his 19-year-old intern drunk, having sex with her multiple times, and then taking her for the morning after pill the next day. And,
Wow.
That news is going to
mean,
get out. You would
yeah,
think
that
that's
happens.
going to
Well,
get
I
out.
mean, he was just thinking of all of us. We would have to pay taxes on that kid. So I mean, that's all he was doing.
But that's, okay, so that's a crooked person, right?
Yeah.
That
Right.
doesn't generally happen,
that doesn't generally happen.
right?
But
And
they're there.
Those are the
they
cases we
exist.
hear about.
what I would say to you guys is there are a lot of good people in the legislature
Mm-hmm.
that really are there trying to do the right thing, and it's frustrating watching how people perceive stuff when they really don't know what's true.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of them there that really care about their constituents. They're there for that reason only. Many of them are not career politicians. I was a career veterinarian. Okay, I came to Texas. I was scared to death. I couldn't pay my light bill or my property tax.
Mm-hmm.
So I know how people feel about that. Okay,
Yeah, you are a homeowner, so you feel that pain too.
I feel that
Yeah.
pain too. But the bottom line is most of them there are representatives, and I was what I'd call representatives. But there's a few of them that I'd call politicians that are there for the wrong reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you hear a lot of that about. And many of those are funded not by lots of small donations or individuals, but they even though it looks like they're being funded by lots of small ones, their funds are all coming from one big group, kind of like the Billionaire Boys Club, where they'll fund 90+% of those people's.
So you're talking about big business,
Can we say
political
names?
action,
Can we say
committees.
I'm sorry.
Can we say names that we talked about where these big PAC funds are coming from?
Well, it's your podcast, not mine.
Okay.
Well, I just want to.
Names like Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks, West Texas.
Yeah, who are those
boys.
dudes?
Those are big oil guys out in West Texas.
Those are two billionaires that will pump $100 million every primary into the primaries in Texas, and some of that money going to Trump and to Cruz and others.
I gotcha.
And what they expect is if they gave me money, when they have their phone, they pick it up, that I answer. Say, yes, sir. What can I do for you, sir?
Uh-huh.
Well, sorry, I'm not in on that.
Yeah,
I've never taken a dime from them, and I won't.
Well, then if once that happens, you're not a true representative of your counties and your constituents.
Look at the ones who are funded by that group, and look and ask in their districts, what have you got done in your district?
So let's do that. Let's go down that rabbit trail. How do you find where their funding goes to, or who the funding
can you
goes
find
to?
that?
Yeah.
Well, you can go. There's a website, and you can look at the donations that were given to them. Okay, you can look at my donations.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, like I said, I think I told you earlier, one of my opponents went on Facebook, ranting about me taking $1,000 from the president of UNT because he said he's a Democrat. You know what? I wouldn't be here today with you guys if it wasn't for higher education.
Sure.
I want every kid that wants to go to college to have that opportunity to do that and to get a degree that will do three things: provide money for their family, have a job that they want to get up and go to, and be able to have a decent living and raise their family on that income. And so that's what I've had the opportunity to do, and that's what I want everybody to have the opportunity to do. Now, we're all hear these deals. College is a waste of your time. You shouldn't. You know what? For some people, it is. And for others, what I would say is this: if you let your kid get a degree that he can't get a job, shame on you. It's not just the advisors they had in junior high and high school and college, but you, mom and dad, should be the primary advisors to these kids on making sure they get a good degree that they can use, that they love to go to work, and that pays the bills. And if you're letting them get some degree that doesn't do that, shame on you.
Sure, yeah.
So there's a lot there.
That's a tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough road though, because as a parent, I don't know. I'm we find the way I grew up, it was like, okay, my mom was a teacher and educator. My dad was a farmer. It's like, I had it's like, you just need to go to college. You just got to go to college. Okay, well, when I'm 19 or 18 or 19 or 20, it's like, what the hell do I do? What do I go for? I mean, your mind changes every damn day. So that's what we're finding. When we got a daughter, it's like, we kind of want to show her things that we're interested in, things that will take her to places and give her a little more focus on what you really might want to go to college to attain. You can't just go to college and say, hey, I'm going to get a degree because you're going to fail.
There's only a few fools like me and maybe Brad that said, I want to be a medical doctor. I want to be a veterinarian when you were little. But you're exactly right. And our three kids, we were blessed. They got good degrees. But I still remember our oldest is our son, Evan, and he decided to go to Oklahoma State. We're in orientation as a freshman with 400 other people there. And the guy in front goes, how many of you in this room know what you want to get a degree in? About a third hands went up. How many of you are not sure but have somewhat of an idea what you want to get a degree in? About a third of the hands up. How many of you in here have no idea what you want to get a degree in? About a third of the hands went up. Yeah. He said, you in the first group will be in the third group by the end of the first year. So they need guidance like you're doing, and they need to continue to watch. We thought our youngest one, she thought about being a veterinarian, and she said, Dad, you work too many hours. Then she wanted to be a nurse, she thought. So we sent her to go work with a client of mine who's a nurse, but she did mostly burn and
man, that's the thick of it.
And, she goes, Dad, I'm tired of looking at people's hind ends and, putting stuff on them. It was a lot of that kind of stuff. And she said, I don't want to do that. So they need to go to the job. They need to be able to look and see. No different than coming to my vet clinic. And some of them, the very first day, you do that. You stick your hand up a horse's rear. You do that. You just use a laser to remove a declaw. You just removed an animal. I don't want to do that.
Oh, I just got kicked in the chest by a 1,300-pound mad cow.
And then you have some of them. You got to keep saying, back up, back up. You're getting too close to the surgery table, and they're going to break the sterile plane. And those are going to do it because they'll stick to it and they'll stay focused. But they got to find something that they want to do and that they're going to want to do for a career.
Well, let me ask this based on one of our previous guests. As an elected official, college is not an entitlement. It's not a right? I mean, it's like you have to want to earn what college should provide for you. And his reasoning is, you have this generation where it's like, we want free college. If it's free college, then it's just another source of public education. It's grade 13, 14, 15, and 16, essentially. But his reasoning is if everybody gets it, then there's no value to it in the end. The outcome is the same for everybody, and now you have no higher education. So how would you enable as an elected official for those that don't have financial means that really have a passion and a drive and want to go for higher education? How do you help those people out, but also say, everybody's not getting this either. It's not free college for everybody, but if you need assistance, if you need help, we're going to put legislation in place that helps you to that. How does that happen?
And we've done some of that. I was blessed to be vice chair of higher ed. I was blessed to be vice chair of 3 different committees. I've never got to be chair yet, but when you're on appropriations, there's an unwritten rule that you shouldn't be a chair. But whenever I've been vice chair for county affairs, higher ed, et cetera, there's always been, like this last one when I was on county affairs, 6 Republicans, me and 5 other Republicans, and then the chair, who was a Dem, And there are a few that still get that. The majority of them don't. But she had 2 others. So it was 3 Dems and 6 Republicans. Now, who really ran that committee? I did.
Yeah.
Okay. But we're going back now. How does that relate to what you're asking about on
Financial
the
assistance.
financial assistant? A lot of the colleges, and way back when, the state controlled how much it cost per hour. And then they released that. And there was I forget the name of the fund. There was a state fund you could put money in. I did it for our 3 kids. You could put, and it was peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first one for 4 years tuition and fees was $13,000 one payment,
Wow.
and then the next one was like 15 and 17. I had to pay on the income that I got because by the time they graduated, the gain, they made me pay taxes on the gain. But when they took that away, the cost per hour went through the roof, and it's crazy. It has started to come back down, and there are a lot of grants and loans available. In veterinary school, it was not cheap at all.
I imagine not.
And I did work my tail off during the summer and made it the first 3 years of college, and my mom helping without debt. But from the 4th through the 7th, I had to borrow money. And it probably made me a better person when I spent the next 12 years paying off a student loan at 7.5%, which I thought was a really great rate compared to the rate out there when we built our house was 13.5%.
Oh,
Good Lord.
But if there's anything that's worth spending or borrowing money on, it's your future. As long as you get a degree that's you're going to love what you do and make a decent living at it. But again, it's not an entitlement, but anybody will qualify. If you don't have enough financial income like I did, you're going to qualify for the loans, and you're going to probably get a lot of grants. And if you're doing well in school, in high school,
if you have the drive, yeah.
and you have the drive, you go pit one school against another, and you're going to get some scholarships, and it's well worth it, and you can do it. There's a lot of kids, though, that don't want to do that, but when they go out and work for a couple of years,
they decide.
They realize, I don't want to do this the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I will buckle down. And that's the best way. They shouldn't have gone right away because they would have probably had such a bad GPA, they would have never got to go back to college. But college is not for everybody.
Sure, no.
I'm not saying it is. There's a lot of trade schools out there that they're making, these HVAC guys, these welders, they're making 6 figures.
Tradesmen are on the up and up because you know it's one of those things that got glossed over for the last 30 years, and it's like, oh, who do I have come to fix my stuff? Oh, these resources are kind of limited because everybody was told, hey, just go to college.
Well, that's not the only reason I think they're in the up. It doesn't cost $400,000 to go to welding school.
That's true. Yeah.
And you don't have to work 20 years to pay off your damn loans. That's where higher education shouldn't mean higher. It's higher to go there. And at some point, and I don't know when it was, but at some point it went from, college sucks to pay for to good luck paying for it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem because I don't see how. Now, I don't think it should be free, but I don't see how if you get it low enough to where more people are going to college, how can that be a bad thing?
Oh, well, okay, that's tough.
How can it be a bad thing if more people, even if they're getting degrees that necessarily not making them $1 million a year?
Okay, but
if you have a guy that's working at a garage,
everything needs a degree. If you're going to become a baker, you need a degree. if you want to own a child care center,
why does it have to do that?
You need a degree.
Why?
Because everybody would have it, and you have no way to parse through like what's worth a damn and what's not.
No, I'm not talking about everything in college needs to be cheap or free. But you telling me your first 3 years that y'all all just said nobody has a clue what the hell they're doing?
Yeah.
That first year of college can't get people in there to go, college is not for me.
Yeah.
Or just give them a taste of college.
Yeah.
And then maybe they figure out that they want to become a veterinarian or a doctor.
It's like half of my class dropped out in the freshman year.
Right. Yeah. And that's probably a lot.
Because of partying, of course.
Right. And that's probably normal.
But today they have a lot more dual credits. Even the school, the college we got right here in between Bridgeport and Decatur.
Weatherford.
Weatherford College. They can get dual credit and they can have, just like our kids, they had enough to do almost 2 semesters of college by the time they got out of high school, and it costs them very little, if anything. A lot of the schools are giving that free,
Right.
but they're dual credit, and that helps to start with, big time.
Yeah.
And then it helps make sure that if they have a 4-year degree, they should be able to get out within 4 or less.
Right.
Or they've got those basics behind them. Hey, they may want to go into the working world, and work for a year or so to figure out, what environment they like to be in, and then back to college, and then they've got those basics.
When
done.
is it like Australia that that's their law?
You have to go to work first.
I think you have to go a year of college, and then you have to go get a job for like 2.
Then you throw a shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah, and then yes,
I don't know if that's true, but it sounds cool.
No, I think it is.
Yeah, but Australians don't have a Second Amendment, so
Yeah, screw them.
Speaking
of Second Amendment,
say, hold on.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say before we move off the subject, a lot of people say, I know, right? A lot of people say school got expensive whenever it started getting subsidies, and whenever,
from the government.
Yeah, and then whenever people could take out student loans, then the price of education went up.
Yeah.
And one thing I do worry, and I will be the first to say that I personally benefit from what Governor Abbott is going for with the school choice thing. I have one homeschooler and maybe 2 next year. I personally benefit from that. But one thing I worry about with what he's pushing is that it does the same thing to not post-secondary education, but K through 12 as well, that it's a bit of a subsidy.
So let me clarify. When the school choice is that also what everybody's talking about with school vouchers? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, now vouchers typically are where the government gives you money and says, go educate your kid.
Okay.
Now, I will never be in agreement with the government giving you money and saying, go educate your kid, because it's ripe for abuse.
Okay.
But the educational savings account, which is what we've been discussing, it would take money and give it to the educational unit, whoever it is, say it's Victory here in Decatur.
Private school.
And they would go directly to them for that kid. So, again, we talked about earlier, playing your hand. Am I always going to support public education? 100%. If it wasn't for quality public education, I wouldn't be here today. But do we have a lot of changing things that have gone on, even since I got into legislature in 2016 till now? And when you talk about the abrasiveness, the abuse, the computer warriors who sit there and, they're pretty tough on the other side, but they've never come and asked you face to face or talked with you.
They couldn't.
We've had a few.
Yeah.
But
I found it flattering. Like once you're pissing those people off, like, okay, I'm making some waves here.
Yeah, you're really getting somewhere.
a badge of honor, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. No, it really is. Like there's something to that. Like, okay, I've disrupted something, and now I'm getting some attention.
But again, I think public schools, that are doing well, and we all have our issues because we all have a tendency to sin and do evil, okay? But public schools that are working hard will continue to be very successful. And if we set this right to where they can be successful by funding them appropriately, there's a point where above a certain amount doesn't give better results, but you have to fund them up to a certain amount. They're going to be fine.
So that was the fear that I guess we could extinguish right now. That's the fear that I've read from leftist local blogs, something like that. We all know who I'm talking about, but I read them every day. That was the fear, is like, this is going to end up gutting actual public, like funding from public schools. If you're going to allocate more to private education, then what's?
But that's not.
But that's
true.
Not the case. You just stated that's not the case.
Again, of all what we had appropriated or budgeted for public education, we still have $4.5 billion sitting there that we haven't put out there. So I won another special session, the 5th one, because we need to get that to the public education. But the reality is, the bill that we had would have put over $8 billion into public education. It would have gave $4,000 per teacher by the end of December for a raise, and another $4,000 in the spring. It would have, through multiple means.
Would you like a pour of anything?
I've got this Modelo that's doing really good.
That
satisfied. Looks good. What is that?
This is Wild Turkey barrel proof. It's the rare breed. It's more of a limited.
Wild Turkey's coming along.
Yeah, more of a limited stock.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that a local one?
No,
it's actually
Kentucky.
good old.
That's
it's a big brand that's coming around now to being kind of recognized as actually being
prominent,
pretty decent.
they've kind of been in the shadows of Buffalo Trace, Jim Beam, but Wild Turkeys, they hold their own.
We got to do this steak thing again. And
yes, we do.
Most
steak
certainly.
and whiskey.
Yeah, we do.
That was unbelievable.
That was a good night.
That was unbelievable.
That was a good night. That was almost 2 years. No.
Yeah.
That was 2.5 years ago.
I thought you guys didn't like me anymore or something. You never heard from me.
Hey, steaks are getting expensive, man.
Yeah, he wants full price for those.
Yeah, right.
Those feeder cows.
So on that same school money, who decides to give what school money? How does that work?
Well, we appropriated that much in appropriation. Now, going back to the legislature, every 2 years there's only one bill that we have to pass, and that's the budget.
Gotcha.
We have to appropriate money for
That's an important point.
public education, for DPS, for health, mental health, and all the different ones, all the different agencies. We have to budget. But and your question again is on who does that.
Who? Yeah.
We know about where we are if we want to increase the allotment based on the increased population, but also on the increased needs that we need for those kids. We have an idea about how much. So we start doing it in appropriations, and then the Public Education Committee, they set it more specific. But when they have those bills, they have to come to the floor, and we have to pass them. Okay, so we had a bill that had more school choice in it during the regular session, but it got killed by the Democrats didn't want it, and then there are a number of really good people that are rural Republicans that see no reason they would want school choice in their area because they don't even have any. They don't have any cities that are as big as they're smaller than Decatur significantly, and all of their cities and their towns really center around their school system. So those guys and the Democrats voted against it. Now, Abbott has said he's going to keep bringing us back till he gets more school choice. So I have a choice of either being at the table negotiating or on the menu. Okay. Now let's take the fact that he's trying to make it difficult on some of those Republicans and say he is successful in preventing some of them from getting reelected. And there's more that are farther to the right where they want the school choice. There may not be any negotiations in the next session. So I think we should be negotiating something that the public school systems can work with and live with, and that will work to help improve private education. Now, one of the fears, and everybody says, is, well, that's just a coupon for the rich. Well, it shouldn't be just a coupon for the rich. It should also, we should make sure that it helps socioeconomic disadvantaged kids, disabled kids, etc. But if you have universal school choice, it's got to be basically for everybody at some point. But the bill ultimately that we had that came to the floor in the fourth special session would have gave over $8 billion to public education, increasing the allotment per kid almost $1,000 in all these teacher pay raises, and taking the safety part that we had put in there as an unfunded mandate out, making it a separate bill, and then funding it with $2 billion.
Right.
But with that would have been $500 million for more school choice. Now, he had the way it was set up was almost 3/4 of that would have been geared first to socioeconomic disadvantage and disabled kids, and then once you got past that, then to anybody after that.
Okay.
And again, that was not money taken out of public education, which everybody would say you're taking it out of the public education. No, every dollar that we get at the state doesn't belong back into school. It never did, and it never will. But we need to fully fund good public education.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be slighted, and then we start questioning why their scores aren't as good as some private school. The other problem is when you look at a public school versus a private school, how many kids do you think that are in private school only have one parent?
Not very many.
Very
Not
few.
very many.
Very few.
Right.
And how many of those kids in those private schools got there because they were accepted?
That's a good point.
That's valid too.
So we have to make sure that we don't sit there and compare the two and go, well, I don't understand why, public school has to take everybody, and private school can pick and choose, and on and on. You know, you have two parents over here that are concerned about your education. You have one that's just paying the light bill, and the other one's never around, and they're just trying to survive. I was one of those that was only one parent, and the way I pulled myself up by my bootstraps was an education. So we want to make sure that those have the chance too. If they're and where it really should work is not necessarily so much in a school that's an area that school is doing well, but in a chronically underperforming school district like South Oak Cliff, those kids have no way out. And we had some amazing young black women come talk to us about 5 of them that 4 of the 5's husbands were working in the public school system. Most of them were working in the public school system, but they didn't want them in that particular district. And because they cared about their kid and they saw what was going on and they wanted to pull them out. And the only way they could was to form a group and work together to homeschool. Otherwise they'd had to be in. And so they need the opportunities and deserve the opportunities if they're in a bad school district. And what we hope is if that happened, is that bad school district would get better.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. We have great schools. You know, one of the best performing schools in my District 64 is Argyle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if you'd ever asked me when I was on the school board, would I ever believe that on day one of school, I'd have got 3 calls from parents of 4th grade students who called me to say, Dr. Stucky, my 4th grade teacher asked my kid what pronoun they want to be referred to by. Now, I immediately called the superintendent. I immediately called the board president, and it had nothing to do with them. They were horrified, and we're going to make sure that that she was reprimanded. But it would have been sent a bigger statement if 2 or 3 of those kids would have left and gone across the street to Liberty Christian. Everybody in the school district would have known what happened. Mm-hmm. She probably wouldn't have lasted as long, or she would have changed her ways, which is fine if she's willing to do that. And the next year, at the beginning of school, they would have done a whole lot better on training their teachers before the kids came.
That's right.
So would that have helped or hurt to have that in Argyle? I think it will help because Argyle's a great school district. They'll just get better. Mm-hmm. Decatur is a great school district. They'll get better. Mm-hmm. But we all have our problems. And then you have the rumors. We have the Furbies. We have this and that. Some of that.
We actually talked about that before you came in.
Some of that has happened in some school districts, and some of it's just trash talk lies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I ever found regarding furries or whatever they were saying they were was something in Kentucky. And I couldn't find any concrete evidence of yes, it actually happened, or it was just.
It just exists in a world of generally not believable for me, but
it happened here in Decatur ISD.
Saying that.
I talked to the person that was involved.
Oh man!
So you just put those kids in special ed.
I like how you tied.
Yes.
You just tied the school choice around to some of the social concern, and that's what I continually feel out of this, business with like the special sessions and what Governor Abbott's pushing is it's not just economic, but there is a social concern here as well.
Well, and it can be done wrong. We don't need to invent the wheel.
Right.
Okay. And it can be done right. We want to model it after someplace that it's worked. And there are areas in the country that it has made public school better. Mm-hmm. The most that we found anywhere was 6.5% of the population went to private school or homeschool, and still, 93.5% were going to public school.
Stayed in public.
We're already at 3.5% anyway. So it would there'd be a small shift maybe. Mm-hmm. But what also would happen, Brad, is that you would have some of these good private schools would get to capacity, and they might grow a little bit, but you're also going to have these new ones that come in that make all these promises.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen with those? The same thing as the Deion Sanders, charter school. They're going to go belly up within 3 to 5 years because they're going to make promises, and you want to get in trouble, make a promise about somebody's kid and don't follow through on it.
Yeah, then when you got to start all over with your kid. And that's terrible for a kid's education.
And it's even harder on the public school system because they end up getting them back in a year or two.
Yeah,
right.
And I always told people, I said, I spent 15 years on the school board, and I dealt with what should be people's most precious assets, their kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I should be qualified to deal with your money.
Sure.
In Austin.
Yeah. Your fear in a roundabout way was just, did you think that these school vouchers were going to cause more expensive private school?
Yeah. Okay. So yes, not more expensive private school, but just kind of inflate education, period.
Okay.
Right.
Well, what the last that the bill that died was going to give $10,500 to go. Okay, and that was the average amount it cost in private school. But there's some private schools that are $36,000. Okay.
Yeah.
So there were people that were going to throw amendments on there saying if you want to get money from ESAs and not vouchers, they're not giving anybody any money specifically. You're going to the educational
savings account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you are going to have to take them at what the average public school kid gets. We pay the average public school in this state, and that's $10,500. So that was one of the amendments that was potentially going to go on there. The other thing that was going to go on there was that if you left Argyle and you went to Liberty across the street, that the state was now going to pay the public school $10,500 for that kid for the next 3 years, because so they didn't have to see the loss and they could continue to plan for the future.
Yeah.
Okay. What I think would have happened if those two things were in place is that some of these new ones that make all these big promises would have gone belly up. The public schools would be better, and you'd have some private schools that were bigger and doing better. You'd have some that went belly up, and you'd have some people that go, well, I want to go back to public school because they actually did more for my kid than this one that made all these promises that didn't follow through. So a lot of that could happen. We don't know, but we do know one thing. All of us, whether it's my 1-year-old today, grandson Bo, or you guys as kids, we're going to want them to have a good education.
Right,
and we're going to do
absolutely.
whatever we have to make sure it happens.
Right.
And one of the ways I tried to make sure is I was on the school board.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So
You have a say-so then.
So that's interesting. So what is something that normal Joe Blows like us can do?
School board.
Is it school board?
Or going to
that
school
seems
board.
Or
Or
just
go to meetings.
going to them, yeah.
Going
I
to
mean-
meetings.
Well, and
school boards feels scary to me.
Well, especially here.
Yeah.
and I want to go back to that. I didn't get on the school board just for my kids. I wanted an improvement in the educational process, in the facilities, and the programs that were available for all the kids. Okay, what can you do? Well, first of all, you want to know the number one frustration for me when I was president of the school board?
Yeah.
Somebody who was just mad as a hornet and wanted to come talk to me and complain. And back then, now the end of the time, I'd look on a computer. But back then, you could at the end of the election, I could go get a printout of who voted. 90% of the time, somebody coming in and complaining about their kid never even
vote. Yeah.
And half the time they'd lie to me and tell me they did.
Yeah.
And I just was not mean
it's
enough
same
to
today.
say you're full of it.
Yeah.
You did not. Look here.
Yeah.
Right.
But number one thing we need to do, whether we have kids in there or not, is to be voting at every election, school board, city council, all the local elections, county commissioners, all of them, the water boards.
Which
whatever.
is why we are hosting this segment, because
Right.
I think we're hopefully getting a lot of good info to people on a local level of what you can really do from the ground up, from a grassroots effort, from your community all the way up to the state level, and giving them the power to do that through the advice from you.
And you talk about the pendulum earlier. There was a time period that hardworking people that didn't have a skin in the game didn't go do that. It was more important to mow their lawn, or to sit home and have a beer. Or whatever.
I'm sure it was somewhat intimidating. Some people are intimidated by it. They're unsure of which way they or what way they would
look
support.
at the language in the amendments.
How
this
do I
past
decipher
election.
this? Yeah, what do I need to hire a lawyer to read out so I can figure out which way I'm going to vote? I mean, there are some
and a lot of them weren't being talked about in the media. so it's like you're sitting there reading this prompter, trying to figure out like, okay, what does this really say?
I'm thinking of Obamacare specifically, like when Pelosi was like, well, we've got to pass this legislation so we can tell you what's in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you, Obamacare with my wife with cancer did not help Lynn Stucky.
I don't think it's really helped anybody.
Nah.
Don't get me started down that path.
Yeah. I mean, we could that's we could do a whole episode.
No, ultimately, it's what caused me to do what
you got out of the industry.
Yeah.
But I got one more question on the school thing.
Are you all right on time, Dr. Stucky?
I'll stay here till the sun comes
Till
up.
the cows
folks.
come home? Don't say that because
Okay.
they might be at home.
I did sign up for this.
So on school stuff, and this is tax money and just school. So where I'm at currently, I am in Paradise ISD. My kids have always gone to Decatur, and that's where they'll graduate. But what frustrates me is I don't have a vote no more.
He said frustrates.
Frustrates.
I
I don't have a vote. I don't have a vote anymore. What happens to where my kids go to school, and my tax dollars go to somewhere I have no clue what's going on at that school, which is it's fine. It's where we decided to move. But is that ever been brought up to where wherever your kids are going to school, like for me, I still think I should have a vote.
Yeah.
What goes on in that school?
And that makes sense. The problem is twofold. There are a lot of school districts, and this is going to happen with Decatur. And maybe because you work in Decatur as part of it, and maybe you lived there before you moved out here, and they'll let them go on. There's a lot of school districts that will not transfer kids because of the growth.
They're not open,
and they have too many portables already, and they got to have more.
Right.
So I see that happening, but not that much. And the problem would be trying to police that because you got to, what do you got to do? Get an affidavit that I live in Paradise ISD, but
you do. You got to.
And how many times do I get a vote? I got 3 over here, or I got 2 over here and 1 in Paradise, or like over in one of the schools up on the north side of Wise County. They had one family that had 1 in private school, 1 in Slidell Public School, and 1 had it was disabled at Victory. So, I mean, that's what gets hard is that, typically the way it was designed is that you're within this district, you're paying taxes here. This is where you get a vote. But I don't have the answer to that one.
Right.
I mean, and I I'm your representative. I need your input on that one, please. Okay.
Okay. I'll give it to you.
I like it.
That's a great segue for that.
Segue?
Like that, you're not in this making all these decisions on your own. You have to seek out input.
Yes, sir.
From your constituents.
That's what they call it. Why they call it representation.
Yeah.
And when you have somebody that thinks they know better than your constituents, it's time to vote them out of there.
Okay.
And get somebody else. Do I make all my constituents happy? No. Every vote I take, I make somebody mad.
You can't please everybody.
But 99% of the time, you're going to vote your conscience and your constituents. Most of the time, I'm blessed in my district that, especially you come off a floor during a debate of a difficult issue, I'll have 400 emails and 200 phone calls that day. And we ask them, are you in House District 64? And my opponents to them will say, you know why they ask you? Because they're going to, they're checking you out. No, we're wanting to know. If you're calling from California, and this happens a lot, I get from all over. I don't really care. You can call and leave a message with my staff because I'm going to be nice about it, but I don't have a lot of time for you. I want to talk to my constituents.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other great people in the state of Texas, but my constituents first. And that helps guide me on how I vote. But basically, you voted in somebody who primarily starts with biblically based values, okay? Do I make mistakes? All the time. But I try to stick with, I know the biblically based values have got us to where we are today, where we have limited government and we have, you treat somebody else like you want to be treated. You get rid of racism. You have your Second Amendment rights.
I mean, we're talking grand arc of history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like our Constitution, the majority of it came from biblically based values.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, you're representing, and I am an expert in veterinary medicine, but I'm not an expert in, splenectomies of pediatrics in humans, or, multiple myeloma cancer. I don't, I know about chemo and radiation and stuff, but I don't know about some of that stuff, or or how COVID-19 affects a human compared to how the coronavirus feline infectious peritonitis affects a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar in there. It's really mean and nasty. And when you do a necropsy or an autopsy, you go, whoa, people go through this. And when you have to be on a ventilator, man, you're, ooh.
Yeah, it's not good. No bueno.
Not good.
Yeah.
But again, I'm representing. So on your ranching and farming, you need to come to me. Now, have I had a lifetime of ranching and farming? I did 2 herds of cattle yesterday for one guy in Flower Mound, and it all starts running together. The other one in Argyle. That's right. That guy was actually from England. He was a retired American pilot, and he lived in Argyle. The second one had an interesting accent.
I feel like that's what the United States needs a little more of people that come from a blue collar, area
kind of segues
of being a servant, so they can identify and relate. And
okay, so man, it segues into something I've been thinking like this
so
whole
much
episode.
More, yeah.
So oftentimes, Chance and I say that there might have been an age in this recent past, like several decades ago, that we would have called ourselves Democrat.
Yeah, if you look up the classic definition of a liberal, that's me.
Well, guys, in the 60s, there wasn't a nickel's difference between a Democrat and a Republican. It wasn't until the platforms got so separated. And, here you have, socialism versus,
yeah, no longer. We would not paint ourselves blue.
I mean, I'd still consider myself conservative, but conservative is like, it embodies what classic liberal is. It's not neoliberal. Yeah. If you look up liberal in the dictionary, it's like, I want enough government to enable commerce and road. I'm not the libertarian. It's like, get rid of all taxes.
Government is God.
We want roads and infrastructure. Enables people to be successful for commerce, and then basically stay the hell out of my life otherwise.
And freedom of religion. Yeah,
exactly. But you know what? I think all of us here understand that everything's not free. And when people say, I don't want to pay any property tax, and I don't want to, and dadgum, you better not start paying tax on medical bills or groceries. Don't add taxes to anything. There are certain services that we want.
Oh, yeah.
J.D. Clark had a good example. He said, your tax bill for the county, for your protection, for your roads, for your police protection, for fire, all that's about $600 a year. Is that worth it to you? It is to me.
Right.
Yeah. But that's classic liberalism, is like you want the essentials. I have no quarrel with that. You want the essentials. You don't want the big brother.
You don't want the big brother, and you don't want the waste. And no matter what we do, there'll always be waste. And as a representative for you, I'm always looking for the waste. Are we wasting money?
Ergo special interests.
Are we wasting money here? Let's stop that. Stop that. There's always somebody trying to cheat and waste. We want to get rid of the waste. We want it to be to give us the things that we expect to have quality of life for us and our families, but we don't want any excess. Okay? There are a lot of people running today that are pure libertarians saying they're Republicans.
Sure.
Yeah.
And those people...
That's the only way they can get traction, though. Everybody always looks libertarians. They always get kind of discarded.
Yeah. And they basically want to be out in the middle of nowhere and
they're anarchists.
Have a fort and I'll fight anybody
else. That's
else.
not libertarian. That's anarchy, and that's what and that's why they get glossed over, because they come off as batshit crazy.
It's a valid point.
Thank you for making that statement.
Yeah.
But I was Ron Paul, kind of the quintessential libertarian.
Yeah.
He comes across as batshit crazy. I love the guy because he's got some great viewpoints. Rand Paul identifies as conservative, but a lot of his viewpoints I would say are classic libertarian. But he honed in on a lot of the special, like so many millions dedicated to a study about lizards on a freaking treadmill. And it's the waste like that, like the stuff that is superfluous and not necessary.
And somebody was getting paid that was helping him under the table. I can tell you at this job, we get $600 a month. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting paid by nobody, special interest under the table. Yeah. I'm doing it because I care about our future and our kids and grandkids. There are people there that are doing it for the wrong reasons. And it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And it's another reason that I'm not just going to say, hey, I'm done because it's gotten too difficult and there's too many mean people. No, that just makes me want to do it more.
You got to have a tremendous spine, though, because if somebody comes at you and says, here's $25 million, I need you to vote this way, that's hard to ignore, Lynn. That's
never had that happen, but I will tell you this: I've had, I had a client who, unfortunately, I had to do his eulogy recently in Denton. He cleaned up 85% of the train wrecks in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and he would write me a check for $10,000 because he believed in me.
Yeah.
Well, we had a bill on the House floor a couple sessions ago that allowed trucks to offload a container off a ship onto the truck and go as far as 30 miles inland to a distribution center and then unload without offloading 25% of them right there at the dock because they were overweight if they added another axle, another set of brakes, and they only went a textile route that was approved for that weight, which actually had less weight than, a fully weighted truck anyway. And I voted for it. But when I'm walking in there, there's the Shark Tank is in front of where you go in, and they're like pulling you, say, hey, come here. You're not, and the railroad companies, you're not going to vote for that bill, are you? Mm-hmm. I go, do you have a railroad track down there? I think it was down to, forget which, it was El Paso, one of the ship channels. I don't know, not El Paso, it was, where the heck was it? But anyway, one of the ship channels where they came in quite a ways, they were doing this. I said, "Do you have any railroad tracks?" No, but we might want to someday. And I'm like, "So, this is going to provide inventory at less cost to the consumer, and it makes sense. They're going to be able to brake faster and have less per square foot." Per square inch pressure on the road. Yeah. And they're going to go in an approved route. Why wouldn't I do that? Because it'll affect the railroads. I don't care. Well, that's going to make Mr. Hulcher mad. And I'm saying, well, then you go tell Mr. Hulcher that he doesn't have to donate to me in the future because I'm going to do what's right, not what you're trying to get me to do just because somebody donates to me. And it is that way on every person that makes a donation to me, whether it's an individual or Texas lawsuit reform, or the realtors, or any of them. Why do they donate to me? Because they don't think I'm batshit crazy, which you just said earlier. And number two, they know I believe in private property rights and free enterprise and on and on. That's why they support me, not because they control me.
Yeah, yeah. And you are part of a legislature of generally good people who are looking out for the interest of their constituency.
And Brad, there's a lot of people in there that I look at and I go, I've made some really good friends here. Yeah. Because they are good people from all 150 areas of the state.
Yeah.
And I would have never got to know these people. Now, there's a few of them that I could care less to meet or see one more time because I don't like what they do, and I think it's wrong and it's immoral.
There's some crooks.
Yeah, but a lot of them are good people. Now, there are some people that I don't agree with much at all, but do I believe that they actually think they're doing what's right for their constituents in that part of the state? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do. So I have to respect that.
That's reassuring.
But I can also say, hey, we're going to have to agree to disagree on that.
It's reassuring to hear that those remarks that you have good people that are in elected positions with you, because that's not the ones that are getting the attention. It's the squeaky wheels. It's the loud ones. It's the activists. Yeah. It's the big disruptors with no good intentions that get all the attention.
And most of those love the social media and they love to get they love to get attention.
What's Alexandria Costa AOC? That's the first one that comes to mind. God, talk about a batshit crazy. All right, moving on to something that you are responsible for. We'll start this off with a little bit of video, but
I want you to tell us if this is bullshit or not.
Let's go down to the border towns.
Can you read that up there?
Can I read it? Yes, sir.
Okay.
But this is California.
Supposedly.
California, yeah.
It's TikTok.
But this is happening everywhere on the United States-Mexican border.
Yeah, so this is a video of all fighting-aged male Chinese guys.
Asian-looking people. We don't know. We can't confirm what the video says.
Yeah.
Those guys are Middle Eastern.
Right.
I don't know why China would give up their men.
No, I don't either.
Right?
That's what we're wondering, because it's not just this one. I mean, it's everywhere.
Well, before we dive into a conspiracy crossroads, is China implanting military-age men to subdue this company from behind? No, let's just talk about what actually you have accomplished on the border. What's being done to? I mean, the border is a gaping hole. Basically,
it is a gaping hole, and it's very frustrating. And, we were headed in the right direction when Trump was president. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest components was remain in Mexico. That was part of his legislation and his policy. And as soon as Biden came in, he got rid of that.
So how does that affect the Texas border?
I mean, remain in Mexico was generally a policy of just being active in the situation in Mexico, right? Like a backstage.
And making it illegal to walk into the United States of America.
Yeah.
The problem, and of course there's lots of people that are in bad countries that are trying to better their life. And they have to come here legally. And we need to fix that. And that's, I'm not going to kick the can down the road, but most of that is federal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We all know people that work their butt off that never weren't born here, that deserve a better life. But with that, when they can just walk across the river or swim across the river, comes all the sex traffic, the fentanyl, the felons, the murderers, and all that. And the cartels in Mexico, they run everything. I was down there 3 weeks ago for a couple of days with Colonel Freeman Martin. And got had a lot of good discussion, and we were on the helicopters, we were on the boats, we walked, and we did all that. Excuse me. And I will be back there Thursday morning, flying down there Thursday morning to a different part, and we just appropriated $1.5 billion. We're going to build 100 more miles of fence. Mm-hmm. A lot of that fence. It's got to a point now where a lot of those ranchers are scared to even be on their own property.
Wow. So do you find that the fence is actually effective?
The fence alone is not. You have to have three things. You have to have a barrier. Mm-hmm. You have to have boots on the ground, and you have to have technology.
Yeah.
Okay. There are areas that the border fence is the most effective thing. There's areas that technology, like those drones and those balloons, are the most effective, and there's a lot of those areas. A lot of them have natural borders that they can't drive a truck across and get into a high-speed chase and kill somebody. Yeah, and then there's some you just have to have boots on the ground. But it's a combination of those three things. There's a lot of areas that need the wall, and Trump started that, and then it stopped. There are areas that I've gone down there where they have 40 miles of wall with 30 open gates in it, and they never completed the gates.
Wow.
Just totally ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a waste of money.
This is in the state of Texas?
Yes, sir.
So why can't we just fix that?
Well, we are. We're starting to fix it.
I mean, I can weld a gate shut. That's what. So
we need you, brother.
Send the farmers and ranchers on down there.
Do you want to fly? How light is your welder? We're on a King Air.
Oh yeah, it'll fit.
You think we can haul that with us?
It'll fit.
It says here $13 billion plus. As a member of the House Budget Writing Committee, you secured more than $13 billion for border security efforts.
And that's exactly right. And you know what? We've billed the federal government for every bit of that and never got a dime back. But
of course,
sorry, guys, that it's your tax dollars we're spending. But we are going to slow this down. There's the other things that you can do is you can pass legislation to make it more difficult. And a good friend of mine, David Spillers, he had a bill that we just passed that makes it illegal to cross into the state of Texas, state law, and that we can turn them back. We can't do that to everybody, obviously, but we can do that to some. And we know Colonel Freeman Martin even told me, he said, just passing that law, there'll be a lot of migrants that will move over to another state that could try to come in because they don't want to get turned back.
Yeah.
So laws, and I said, like I said, the three things: the barriers,
monitoring,
the technology, and the boots on the ground. We got to have that.
Okay.
Now, can we invade Mexico? I don't think I want a war with Mexico, but I've had somebody that ran against me that said they wanted to stand over on the Mexican side.
Yeah,
you're going to get. You've declared war with Mexico.
We have so much. There's a ton of American industry in Mexico already.
Right. I had another bright idea by somebody running was to raise the level of water in the Rio Grande. I'm like,
well, then you're going to flood people.
Sorry, but the bottom line is we need water in Wise County, not down
the Rio Grande.
Yeah.
And those rafts are going to float just the same.
But I want to elaborate and continue on this. Like, let's preface this with nobody at this table hates Mexicans. It's not a racial thing, but it's also not just about criminals and drugs and bribery, extortion. It's not about that. It is about a horde. And like Mexicans are.
You just said horde.
Horde.
Oh, okay.
Mexicans are like great salt of the earth, good moral people, but the ones that want to legally move here,
what was that?
Those are great.
I mean, that song from Robert O'Keefe.
I don't know.
Mariano.
You're distracting me.
Oh, come on.
You're distracting me.
It's where he's singing about his Mexican that worked for his family.
I think that was you and yours.
Yeah, but that's not the situation anymore. It's not the situation anymore. It's hordes of people that want to come here, and it's not all criminals, corrupt. It's not that. It's people that want to come here, and they're a massive tax burden, and they're a medical burden, and
that's legit.
So that's the thing is
they're
not
educational,
and they're not contributing. Now, if you could round every single one of them up and say, guess what? You're a citizen as of today. Congratulations. Start paying into the taxes, your tax system to your local. Then I'm okay with that too.
That's not what it is.
No, it's not. But you either stop them or you round them up and say either leave or become a citizen.
But some of it's labile concern, but other concern is actual security concern. It's drugs, sex trafficking.
Oh yeah, that's a huge factor. But I just didn't. I wanted to specify that it's not just that. It is. There's a massive tax burden.
I met with deputy in Denton and Presby Hospital and a couple other and 3 moms of kids between 17 and 28. I think was the oldest. Those 3 moms who lost a boy in the last year to 1 fentanyl tablet.
Wow.
There's enough fentanyl coming across the border right now in the state of Texas to kill everybody in Texas, California, and New York.
Jesus.
This is, perpetrated on purpose by, the Chinese and others that want to see the United States of America go down the tube.
So that's a bold claim right there.
If that's true, if that number's true, you tell me why every Texas National Guard, because it's government, so let's take out National Guard. Every Texas National Guard, every Texas Ranger, which was formed as Border Patrol agents. Why ain't every one of them down there?
A lot of them are down there. Not every one of them are down there. A lot of them are. One of the reasons is it costs a lot of money. Mm-hmm. It costs a lot of money, and that's where the border barriers help. Mm-hmm. You start pushing them to certain areas.
You slow them down.
And you can control them better. But when you don't have any help from the federal government, when I was down there 3 weeks ago,
right, and
I was told that by the DPS, as we're sitting there and watching the Border Patrol pull a boat out of the river, that they had gone down about 100, not 100 yards, it was about 2 miles, and they had taken a piece of construction equipment with the forklift on it.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this video.
Lifted up the wire to let them in. Mm. And then, we're riding up and down the river, and these poor people, some of them look like just dogs that were beat. You come by, and they're all hunched in. All the Border Patrol is doing is saying, hey, you need to meet for court date on this time and letting them come through.
They can't turn them back.
They can't turn them back.
And that's a federal.
And that's the federal. Yeah. And does DPS, I asked them, do you work with these guys? You try to work with these. Do you communicate with these guys? Yes, we do. And most of them are good people, but
right.
They are in a terrible situation with the federal government because of who we have at the helm.
Washington, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do a lot more, and we're going to slow them down between legislation, getting more boots on the ground, getting more technology, and those balloons they can see a rabbit cross 25 miles.
Jeez,
but but those folks moving, the cartels moving them, know where those balloons are, and they know when they move them because they'll move them periodically, and so they will go around them or through them. We were down there, not this time, but one time before with the DPS, and they all of a sudden turned around and took off. I said, "Where are you going?" It was about dark. It was Lori and I were in there together, and they go, "Well, they're having a armed apprehension right now where they're having a shootout. We're not going in there. We'll come back tomorrow morning." We go back in the morning. They had an F-150 pickup with over $3 million worth of meth and marijuana and other stuff in the back. And what they did is they took a 16-foot flatbed trailer with 3 55-gallon drums attached to each side, pulled it down to the water, unhooked it, drove the F-100 on it, pushed it across, got it in it, and took off in a high-speed chase. And we're shooting. And that's where innocent people get killed.
Right.
Another reason why you have barriers in certain areas where they stop them from the high speed. Now, does a barrier completely prevent them from crawling over or going under? No, but all those barriers that we build now have a road on both sides to monitor, and they have cameras so they can see that they're coming, and then they can apprehend them, and they can slow them down and also get them to go toward the ports of supposedly entry where more feds are there, and it reduces the number of felons and criminals crossing.
Right.
But those guys will run people through. You would see a crossing where they put a wristband on them, and they get across, they pop that band up. There'll be a pile 18 inches tall of wristbands.
Wow.
Where they dropped them. They had another change of clothes in a plastic bag. They dropped their clothes, they switched clothes, and they're walking in with their cell phone.
Wow.
I can show you pictures on here where we're driving, and they're just in a line. And that's why we had over 2 million of them come in last year. When Trump was still there at the end of his presidency, we had got it down to like 350,000 a year, which seems like way too many.
That's astronomical.
Sure, yeah.
And when you're talking about apprehensions on the illegal guys, for every one we catch, there's probably at least one that gets away.
So I don't know what powers are behind it, but the method has been pretty effective of the ones, they can't send them back. So governors of states are busing these immigrants.
I mean, I've heard this.
These northern states and big cities, they're not hands on. They haven't seen. They're in a border state, a southern border state, so they don't know. But the busing these migrants into these Martha's Vineyards and everywhere else, like, okay, here you go. You want New York. You want to open your doors. Here you are.
And back up a second. Those people, we're feeling so sorry for these people.
Oh yeah.
And like you, you're right. We can't let people come in without participating in the system. That's why in McAllen we have this amazingly beautiful hospital.
Yeah.
Unbelievably beautiful hospital. And we go in there and they want to show us the hospital. So I'm saying, hey, so what percentage of these women that are having babies here are legal and what are illegal? Well, we can't say what that is. We can't tell you what that is. So I go up to the second floor where they have NICU. So I ask the nurses because they'll tell me.
Yeah.
85% are illegals coming across, and we're paying for them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but those being bused are being bused to the cities where all those people up there
sanctuary
called, said we're a bunch of asses down here being bad, and they're sanctuary cities.
Yep.
And so now that they're getting these, all of a sudden they want to backtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now you've pissed off other demographics of people. I heard a great city council meeting with like the black community in Chicago. And they're pissed off because they're being displaced and their opportunities for prosperity are gone. They're being overrun by migrants that are being bused there, and they're like, "This isn't working out." Yeah. We want to be able to succeed in our city.
Or the governor of New York, or the New York City mayor, I think it was actually, that said, we got to have money now from the feds.
Yeah.
What about us in Texas that have had over 2 million cross our border?
Yeah.
I think in some instances they've displaced veterans too to house migrants, and that's probably in extremely left-leaning cities. But are there any of these highlights that you want to read or give to your listeners right now that I don't know what ones I should pick out or what I should.
Every one of them is important.
Okay.
Yeah, we could probably throw this on. Oh.
Yeah, we could throw it on with the picture once we release the show.
And we will continue to work on this and do this. And, people are frustrated. I don't blame us. We are frustrated as Texans, and we shouldn't have to spend $13 billion in this 1.5 more that we just added. But we have to do something to slow this down, and we are. Between legislation and more money, we are, and we will continue to.
Yeah.
And nobody is doing as much as we are. No other state is doing as much as we are. And if people are saying we're not doing anything, I'm sorry. We're, I'm frustrated too.
Mm-hmm.
As a small business owner with 20 to 30 employees, everything went like this.
Yeah.
And probably like his office, when I have 5 exam rooms, we'll work those things. I can do all of them myself if you do them right.
Sure.
Because you do it in an organized manner and an efficient manner. Well, government doesn't work that way, and I want it to change.
Yeah.
And we try to do everything we can, but we are actually getting some things done. But the pendulum is going to have to swing for us to get what we want. The results we completely want to see is we need help from the feds.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to still get there. We're going to get improvements without them. But it would sure be nice to have a Republican president.
Yeah.
It sounds like despite them.
Yeah. Well, it's a fundamental thing that Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals should be able to agree on is like, you don't have a freaking country if you don't have a border.
Right.
That's another area I completely disagree with libertarians.
Roman history taught us that.
You don't have a country.
Yeah.
You have to have a defined boundary that says, only these people are citizens of this country.
Yeah, Beto O'Rourke was totally against that, yet, he married rich, married to a woman that had a lot of money, and they had a wall around their home, and, but yet he wants to break the wall. Well, why don't you why do you have a wall around your own home?
Yeah. Open. You got
I can't
some
believe
vacant
that
bedrooms.
dude was even a contender.
Well, more than one time.
Yeah.
I haven't heard
I don't know
much
if
from him
contender
lately.
is the right word. But
Yeah, he was never a contender.
he showed up.
I
Yeah.
haven't heard much from him lately.
But on one more thing, not on the border, because I'm getting pissed off at that. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk no more.
We all are. I am too, sir.
Yeah, but what I really want to talk to you is on the first time Texas history, Wise County has its own state representative, and how does that affect our voice? I think we talked about it a little bit, but explain a little bit. So your office that you now have in Decatur.
That's the first time that you've ever had office in Wise County.
What does that mean? Having
that means
an office.
I care a lot.
Right.
About Wise County and how important it is. And, I have a limited budget, but we have somebody there at least one day a week. And if anybody wants to meet me there, I'll meet them if I'm home, whenever I can. Like this week, I was in Austin. Signee died Tuesday afternoon. I had to go to Houston for a meeting. Then I came home.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I had to take a shower when I got here.
It's all about the humidity.
It's humid up there, yeah.
But, it's more than humidity, especially Austin.
Oh, my.
But, again, I'm getting off track here.
Yeah,
your question
it's our fault.
Is
We
about
love our
representation
Yes.
here. We are going to
They're serious.
Yeah, she's going off on you.
Yeah,
She's got a lot to say tonight.
Yeah, and that's not smart either. We are blessed to be able and honored to represent Wise County, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. I spend when I'm home, I spend half my time in Wise County. Now, this $600 a month doesn't pay all my bills, so I still do some veterinary medicine. I sold my practice. They have a triple net lease on it. They didn't want my mobile units. I love doing mobile stuff. So I had 3 of those. I updated 2 of them brand new and put one in the P2 parking garage in Austin, so I get to meet some really interesting people down there.
Interesting.
And I have one up here, and then I have a 3rd truck now. I actually got me a King Ranch.
Oh, nice.
And it doesn't have a vet box on it. For the first time in my life, I can feel like a farmer rancher driving around in a King Ranch.
And not getting stereotyped. Like, that guy's a vet. Get his number.
Exactly. But it's great to be here. It's great to represent people that are like-minded with Lori and I. Lori grew up on a farm ranch also. We grew up about 50 miles apart from each other, met at K-State. But I do, and I'd love to invite you three to it, but I do a pheasant hunt every year where we go up and I'm there just long enough that I realize how much I hate the wind. I turn around and come back down here. But we go up and pheasant hunt the second weekend on the land that Lori and I own and my brother owns and her family owns.
I would love to come.
Yeah.
That's some of the funnest hunting, and you've got to work for it.
Oh yeah,
it's not easy hunting.
We do not have fat yellow pen raised pheasants. These are only wild ones.
You have wild.
So by the second weekend, if you slam your door here, they fly out a mile away over there. You got to be smarter than that.
When does this occur? What month?
It'll be November. It's usually the second or third Tuesday of November.
If you're serious, count us in.
Love to have you guys go.
I've been on every pheasant hunt I've been on is in Kansas.
Burns has gone with us. He showed up for about 18 hours this year and went, and then he turned around. He had two reasons. He brought him a big old 1 ton bag that he bought corn.
Okay.
He brought it back for his wife's pet deer, I think.
Gosh, she feeds every deer in this neck of the woods.
but I think he was a little worried about the rain after he bought that corn, and he didn't want it to get, and it was going to rain, so he took off and got home probably about 4 a.m. instead of stayed and hunted the next morning.
Nice. Well, he's going to be on January 7th.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be terrible.
It'll be a good one.
Can I come here and stand over
You
there?
absolutely
Just sit on the
can,
couch?
yeah.
Yeah.
we got some tough questions.
Oh,
for
we have
him,
another
too.
mic that we can throw
Oh, yeah, we
on,
get you
too,
both
so
back
can-
on there. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But,
I'm here. I'm in.
You think your questions were tough?
Thanks for letting me go first. Now, we're going to go back to, this brought up another subject.
Okay.
I am going to be doing a forum here with the Wise Republican Women in the Chamber. I'm going to do one back there, but I'm not doing some forums with some groups that have not treated me fairly.
Okay.
And you talk about go first or go second. The last time I got to go first every time, and then my opponent got to go second.
Well, okay.
So, I'm just, there's no reason for me to go back to that. That's a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're setting you up for failure almost.
Yep. And then I never got a rebuttal either. So
Are you kidding me?
no rebuttal. So it's like, oh, thank you. May I have another?
Yeah, you toss out all the ammo and then you have no recourse. Jeez. Something, I guess we can kind of wrap this up. If I'm feeling good about it. I think we got a lot of good info.
It's great.
But I do have one, serious but tongue-in-cheek subject of like, as Texans, as Americans, why can our elected officials not get us out of the time change?
Out of the time change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's valid. I did not know where you were.
I didn't either, but I'm glad you brought it up. Jeez.
I would agree with you on that.
Let's come together.
Because when you're making sausage,
Yep.
sometimes
I love this reference.
we got to step back and we got to figure out how to do this right, where people are going to vote for it on the House floor, etc. And let's start with saying we don't really care so much about it messing up us, but it sure screws up our pets. When it's time to feed them, they're all messed up.
Is that the way to do it?
Yeah. So let's do this for our animals.
I love it.
We'll benefit from it secondarily, at least.
I mean, who benefits from getting dark at 5:15 in the afternoon? Though?
I mean, yeah.
Absolutely.
Tell me.
Somebody's
got to be making money.
That
off
was
the
back.
totem
That was
thing,
back
right?
before electricity.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I got to ask you a little bit of trivia here that we just really came to a
We
revelation
researched
about. Do you know why it was first enacted?
I've heard why it was first enacted, but I can't quote it.
What? Oh, okay.
What are you thinking? I mean, loosely.
Based on making it more efficient for people to go to work and to come home and to be at work during daylight.
That's what we all thought.
Yeah, during the war, right?
Well, it was a World War I.
Well, we always thought it
policy.
was farmer,
Yeah.
something help farmers.
We thought it was
and-
agricultural related, which essentially they're thrown into it. But
Yeah.
it was a World War I policy that
You have a longer growing season if you get an extra hour, right?
sure, I guess. I don't know. I'm not that serious of a farmer.
Nah.
I'm on banker's hours.
I think we get the same amount of daylight. We just mess up the time.
Yes.
I'm just not getting up earlier.
God,
Okay.
I can't stand this time.
So what was it? I mean,
It was a World War I policy to conserve energy. So I guess that loosely translates into working more efficiently within daylight hours.
I tell you what, you guys, I'm your representative. You come to me with how we work this, and again, I think we put in there that it's not it's not relevant anymore. And number two, it sure does mess up our pets.
It does.
They're still going to come. My dog knows within 5 minutes when he's supposed to get fed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really mad when we have daylight changing time.
Right.
Much less our kids.
Our kids are the same way. You're right.
You heard it first here. Dr. Lynn Stucky, I would like it to not be dark at 5 p.m.
Yes.
See what you can do about that for us.
Well,
We like the 8
as our
o'clock
elected
one.
representative.
LynnStucky.com. You let us know how you want to form this bill, and we'll get going because I can start filing as early as next November.
Okay.
But didn't it get brought up not too long ago?
No, it goes through every year.
Okay, it just gets
We need
shot out.
we need the twist about the animals because you know what?
Yeah.
I deal
PETA.
with 60,
They love us.
66% of the representatives are somewhere around that are lawyers, and nobody really cares if that you don't have an advantage as a lawyer.
No.
But as a veterinarian, more representatives like you because they usually have the commonality that they like animals. In fact, I get calls all the time from other reps wanting me to give them advice on their animals. That doesn't hurt when it comes to, hey, don't kill my bill. Even if they don't agree with me.
Use what you can use, right?
You're making sausage. You do everything you can.
But is there what is the big argument of
who's out there trying to kill
like
the end daylight savings time bills?
Is it just because the Republicans are saying and the Democrats don't want it? Is that the reason why it's dying, or what is the?
It's never been taken that serious.
Oh, okay.
And I think you want to make it really serious. The best thing you can do is, like I said, when you come back off the floor and you got a bill that's about there, is to know that you had a whole flood of people calling and emailing you about it. Because if you think you got 400 people that are going to vote for or against you that want that, you're more likely to step up there and vote to get rid of daylight savings time.
Wow, that's valid.
The other thing that's a problem is right now is trying to decide which one do we do, the daylight saving time or the regular time.
Mm-hmm.
We need to figure out which one everybody wants.
Longer evenings
makes more sense to us anyways.
And then we need to have everybody calling their representatives about the time that thing's going to hit the floor. Mm-hmm. And we need to...
Because is it Arizona that has it?
Arizona. They stay on one time. That's it.
I'm with you. I agree with you.
I like it.
I think Hawaii, maybe Hawaii does too. I'm not real sure. But.
There needs to be more. We're leaders in Texas.
So speaking of people getting a hold of you, throw all your... How does that happen? Socials, websites, phone numbers.
We got them all.
Whatever you want.
I hope you all got.
Oh, we'll attach them too.
Yeah.
I hope you all got one of these mailers. It's one thing that the state did help me with, and it talks a lot about everything we did to the point we sent this out. But it has information on there on how to get a hold of us. We have our capital extension E2822. And the phone number 512-463-0582, or you can go to www.house.texas.gov, or you can go to lynn.stucky@house.texas.gov, or you can call the Weiss County number 940-243-0230.
There you go.
Or the Denton County numbers. And
nice.
Those are ways you can get us, or you can go to lynn.stucky.com, however you want to do it. But
perfect.
We are here
we'll
to
attach
serve,
it all.
Yeah.
And we don't just ignore anybody. There's occasionally somebody will call into some crazy thing and say we never called them back. And it's like, where we document every phone call. When did you call and where? And sometimes it got lost. But don't give up.
Yeah.
Because it's not that we ignored you. Something happened. I guarantee.
Persistence is key.
Right. Well, I can speak to that even personally. It's my family came down for a Capitol tour, and they were turned away by the Capitol tour people, but they got a hold of your office, and your office found out how to facilitate that.
Interesting.
And it shouldn't work that way, but it does sometimes. Yeah. And Brad, next time I will personally come out there and we'll go around.
Yeah, you got much
we will
more
go around
business.
the security and bring them all in, even if you're legally packing. Okay?
So what you're saying is the wall works there.
It does.
It's amazing.
It does.
No, you have much more important business.
Right.
But
no,
but
never.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
It's been a fun night. I think I'll take you up on coming back when Burns is here and try Try to stand over there and harass him or something.
You bet. Tell us stories he don't want on there.
County Judge J.D. Clark next week.
Next Sunday, yeah.
And then I'm trying to think of the order. Then Kevin Burns, Commissioner Kevin Burns, and then Mayor Amanda Black, and then City Councilman Eddie Allen. So,
I just got to meet with Eddie Allen and spend some time with him. We need to all be praying for his wonderful son, Clark.
He is doing better.
And I hear he's doing better.
He is.
What an amazing young man.
Oh, man.
And amazing dad. I haven't got to meet his mom or Clark's mom yet, but,
yeah, they're good people.
It's a great community, and he's told me that the community rallies behind him, and we need to continue to do that.
That's great.
He's got a GoFundMe account because of all the expenses that are going on. And they were just down at MD Anderson in Houston.
Yep.
Again.
I think, knock on wood, I think the last thing I heard from Eddie was another 2 weeks and he should be able to come back home if everything keeps going the way it's going. So he is on the...
That's great news.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you again, guys.
Hey, you bet,
It's been
man.
awesome, and look forward to getting together again.
Heck yeah.
Thank you, Dr.
Maybe
Stucky.
trying that bourbon or that and a steak. Or
You bet.
We have an open door policy,
Have to
man.
get them
Anytime you
steaks
want to
back
come
out.
Absolutely. Steak for sure. We've got the message. A steak night's going to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be a vegetarian night. We can promise you that.
No, sir.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Adios.
Good night.